Ever wonder how those super detailed band tees or those like crazy pattern fabrics actually get made?
Yeah.
We're about to dive into a career that is all about precision and artistry.
Right?
It's screen making technician.
Okay.
You sent us some really interesting excerpts from RoleCatcher on this, and honestly, it sounds way more interesting than I expected.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's one of those like hidden in plain sight roles, right?
Yeah.
We see the final product, those awesome prints, but don't always think about all the skilled folks who actually make it happen.
Totally. So these RoleCatcher guides keep mentioning screens.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like we're talking about stencils, but like on a whole other level.
Exactly. Imagine like super precise stencils that are used to like mass-produce designs, but on fabric.
Okay.
Screen making technicians are the ones who create those screens using all these techniques like engraving and etching.
Okay.
Think of it like this. They're translating a design onto a screen, which then allows for, perfect, consistent prints every time.
Okay, so it's not just about artistic talent, it's about technical skill too.
Lots of it.
The guide mentions etching.
Yeah.
What exactly does that entail?
So etching uses chemicals to actually create the design on the screen.
Oh, wow.
It's a very delicate process, requires a lot of precision, and you have to understand how those chemicals react with the screen material.
Wow.
It's basically controlled corrosion, right?
Yeah.
You're corroding it to create those stencil openings.
Wow. That sounds incredibly detail-oriented.
Yes.
Almost like a chemist who's also an artist. And speaking of detail-oriented, the guide highlights this as a major pro and con of the job itself.
It is interesting, isn't it?
Yes.
That the same characteristic that might deter some people, that need for meticulousness, is what draws many to this field.
Oh, interesting.
They thrive on that precision, knowing that it's directly tied to the quality of the final product.
So it's like the more detail-oriented you are, the more job security you might have because you're just naturally good at this kind of work.
Exactly. And that leads to some interesting observations about who thrives in this kind of role. It often attracts those who find satisfaction in a job well done,
Right.
even if it involves, maybe some repetitive tasks or a lot of patience.
Right. So it's not just about technical skills, it's also about personality fit.
Huge.
And speaking of different personalities, the guide mentions laser engraving as a newer technique.
Yeah, that's right.
Is that changing the game at all?
It is.
Yeah.
Laser engraving is all about speed and precision.
Okay.
So imagine a super focused laser beam etching the design onto the screen,
Wow.
and it's all controlled by computer software. This allows for incredibly intricate designs and much faster production times, especially when you're talking about complex patterns.
Wow. So even though the core concept of screen making is pretty, I don't know, like old school, the technology is constantly evolving.
Absolutely, and that's something that keeps popping up in these RoleCatcher excerpts, this blend of traditional craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology.
Yeah, I love that.
That's what makes it so interesting.
Right.
You need that grasp of the fundamentals, but you also have to have this willingness to adapt and learn new techniques as they emerge.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got this cool mix of old and new tech, but what about the actual career path of a screen making technician? Like, what does that journey look like?
Well, the guide breaks it down into like 4 main stages.
Okay.
You've got entry level, junior, senior, and then like the ultimate master technician.
Right.
Each stage has its own kind of flavor, building on the one before it.
Right.
It's like leveling up in a video game,
Right.
but for textiles.
I love that analogy. So at the entry level, you're basically learning the ropes.
Yeah, exactly.
The guide mentions assisting with screen preparation. What exactly does that involve?
It's all about mastering the basics.
Okay.
So think about things like cleaning and prepping the screens, mixing inks according to very specific formulas, and learning how to operate some of the equipment.
Right.
You're like an apprentice at that point. Yeah.
Just kind of watching, absorbing everything.
So attention to detail is key, even at that early stage.
Absolutely.
And then you move on to junior technician level.
Right.
What's interesting there is the guide specifically mentions troubleshooting issues.
Yeah.
That sounds kind of nerve-wracking.
Oh, it can be. Imagine you're working on this like huge run of t-shirts
Right.
and suddenly the print starts smudging.
Oh, no.
A junior technician would need to figure out what's going wrong.
Right.
Is it the screen? Is it the ink? Is it the pressure of the printing machine?
Wow.
It's like being a detective, but for textiles.
Oh, I totally see that. And the guide mentioned ink leakage.
Uh-huh.
I'm guessing that's not a good thing when you're trying to create a precise design. What causes that?
It can be a number of things. Maybe there's a tiny rip or tear in the screen itself,
Oh,
or the stencil wasn't properly adhered.
right. It could even be like the wrong type of ink is being used for that specific fabric. Part of troubleshooting is just knowing where to look and what questions to ask.
Right, so it's not just about fixing the problem. It's about understanding why it happened in the first place.
Exactly.
And then you climb that ladder and you get to senior technician.
Well,
What does that role entail?
at that level, you're not just troubleshooting, you're innovating.
Mm.
The guide talks about collaborating with design teams to translate their vision onto the screen.
Right.
Imagine working with like a super complex design with multiple colors and gradients and stuff.
Wow.
That requires some serious expertise.
Yeah, that's where that blend of artistry and technical skill really comes into play.
Exactly. And it often involves pushing the boundaries of what's even possible with the technology. Maybe it's experimenting with new inks, trying different etching techniques,
Right.
maybe even coming up with like more efficient production processes.
So it sounds like there's never a dull moment as a senior technician.
Never.
But let's not forget the pinnacle, the master technician. The guide paints them as almost like legendary figures.
They are. They are the Jedi masters of screen making.
Right.
At that level, you're not just doing the work, you're basically shaping the entire industry.
Wow.
The guide mentions leading research and development, mentoring other technicians, even setting industry standards.
That's incredible. And the guide specifically mentions master technicians needing to stay ahead of the curve, especially with digital printing becoming more common.
Right.
That sounds like a constant challenge.
It is. Digital printing offers some advantages, right?
Yeah.
Especially in terms of speed and design flexibility.
Right.
But there's still a demand for that quality and craftsmanship that you really only get with traditional screen making.
Right. So it's less about one replacing the other and more about finding ways to integrate the two.
Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting.
A master technician might specialize in combining those digital printing techniques with traditional screen making methods to create even more intricate and unique designs.
So they're almost like becoming a hybrid artist, technician, innovator.
In a way, yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Going through these RoleCatcher excerpts, it really strikes me that this isn't just a job about making T-shirts.
Right.
It seems like screen-making technicians are needed in a bunch of different industries.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah?
We've been talking about apparel a lot,
Right.
but the applications go way beyond that.
Okay.
Think about home decor.
Okay.
Those like beautifully patterned curtains, upholstery with like really intricate designs, even wallpaper with those unique textures.
Right. It's like suddenly I'm seeing screen-printed designs everywhere.
Yeah.
I hadn't even considered those applications before.
It's easy to overlook the process when you're just surrounded by the final product.
Yeah.
And it doesn't stop there. There's also the whole world of promotional materials.
Oh,
Those branded tote bags that
Yeah.
everyone seems to love.
Yeah.
Company banners
Sure.
with like really eye-catching logos.
Uh-huh.
Even those band posters that you see plastered everywhere.
Right.
A lot of times it's screen printing that's bringing those to life.
So you could really carve out a niche for yourself within this field. Like maybe you're super passionate about sustainable fashion
Right.
and you want to focus on working with companies that use eco-friendly inks and processes.
Exactly. Or maybe you're more into the technical side of things and
Right.
you want to work with companies that are printing on like more unconventional materials.
Okay.
The guide even mentions possibilities beyond fabric, like metal, plastic, even wood.
Wow.
Imagine the skill involved in creating those screens.
Wow. The possibilities are kind of endless.
Yeah.
It's not like a one-size-fits-all career path, which is really cool.
It's very cool. And speaking of different paths, there's also the option of going freelance as a screen making technician.
Right. The dream for some, the nightmare for others.
Right.
But seriously, what does that even look like in this field? It seems like you need a pretty solid client base to make that work.
You really do. The guide talks about how freelancers in this field really need to be like incredibly self-motivated
Right.
and organized.
Yeah.
You're not just handling the creative and the technical work. You're also your own like marketing department.
Right.
You're the accountant, your customer service. It's a lot to juggle.
It sounds like the ultimate test of those adaptability skills the guide keeps mentioning.
Oh, for sure.
But for someone who thrives on that kind of independence and variety, it could be amazing.
Absolutely. And you could even specialize as a freelancer.
Okay.
Maybe you become known for creating like super high-end screens for those big luxury fashion houses.
Wow.
Or you become the go-to person for eco-conscious brands that are really looking for those sustainable printing solutions.
So whether you're working in like a high-tech production facility
Yep.
or like setting up your own little studio at home,
Right.
those core screen making skills are really valuable.
They are. That understanding of engraving, etching, ink selection, fabric compatibility,
Right.
those are your tools of the trade, no matter what path you choose.
This has been such an eye-opening deep dive. We've gone from thinking about just like basic t-shirts to like uncovering this whole world of textile artistry and technical
It's
precision.
pretty amazing, isn't it? And
Yeah.
it really does all come back to those screen-making technicians.
Yeah.
They're the ones working behind the scenes to bring all of those designs to life.
Totally. The unsung heroes of printed fabrics everywhere.
Exactly.
So for our listener out there, if you're even a little bit intrigued by this career path, don't stop here.
No.
Dive deeper into those RoleCatcher resources, maybe check out some online tutorials, maybe even reach out to a local screen printing studio and see if you can shadow someone for a day.
It's a fascinating world.
Yeah, because who knows, you might just discover a hidden passion for this really unique blend of art and technology.
You never know.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Until next time, keep those minds curious and those explorations going.